Hello, everybody. This is Pedro Soto, welcoming back our listeners to another episode of Westbury Analytics Talk Radio. Our special guest today is Sami Kallio, CEO and co-founder at HappySignals, which is dedicated to making experience data visible, understandable, and connected to operational data in IT so that enterprises can change their culture to be more open, outcome-focused, and data-driven. With the help of HappySignals, customers have been able to make employers happier and increase productivity by 26%. Now, Sami, thanks for taking time from your busy schedule to join us. Please share with our listeners a little bit about you and how HappySignals got started before we dive into our conversation.
All right, thanks, Petro, and very thank you for inviting me here. It's kind of my background is in service design, doing service design for consumers and business to business. And then I ended up to do one project in this area and found it really fascinating. And kind of I started to do interviews for people, normal kind of end users, not IT people, normal people who really need our support, and started to understand kind of the pain points and how they felt. And then doing that, I was thinking that this is not only this one enterprise that I was helping in there. I realized that I just kind of found my passion there that I want to do and find other companies and discuss about the same area. And I did that for 10 different enterprises, their CIOs. And I just understood that the interest is having a bit, twisted mind. We are so focused on how we work in IT, what is our process. And we have a bit forgotten that what we are really there for, helping the end users. Yes. And that drives me and that drives the company as well. Yeah.
Excellent. And how long has HappySignals been around then?
We have been around 5 years already. But now with what we now do, we have been doing that for 2 years now. So
okay,
still
excellent.
Young company.
Great. So now you published a really interesting report called the Happiness Score, and it's in the form of an ITSM benchmark. Please tell our listeners more about this report and how it helps ITSM leaders.
All right, so that report is really coming from all our customer data. So what drives us is to help the whole industry to really understand the end user experience, the value of it, so that we can really start to kind of show the value what we are bringing to the rest of the organizations. That report is really gathered from all our customers. So all feedback we ever get, now about 2 million feedbacks in that benchmark. In that one that was already released, that was 1.5, but the next one that will be released in about a month, it will be 2 million. So
wow.
People's opinion, what made them happy and what made them hate IT support. And I think that is, as it is, quite valuable information for everybody to kind of understand. Of course, everybody's having a different situation.
Yes.
But when you start to understand how people in certain locations, for example, certain countries rate services differently, or channels, of course, different channels will deliver different kind of experience for the end users. And understanding what that value is has been quite eye-opener for us.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Our customers.
Yeah, and I know that your surveys have consistently found that there's a difference in the customer experience created by internal service desks versus outsourced service desks. Can you expand on that and share some of the key insights that your research reveals about this?
Yeah, that was the first time we released anything on that was last November. A bit scary information, in fact, because there is a huge difference. So if you're having your internal service desk, and this is now IT support services, you are making the end users 22% happier. But the other thing what we measure is that how much time does it take from end users to get something resolved? So how much time they are losing per ticket? And the difference there is 47%. So if the internal service desk is working with the people, that is 47% more productive for the business on average. And that difference is a bit scary, but I'm not going to blame at all the service desk providers. It is how we measure that. And if you're measuring how fast they answer a phone, and we are giving them a high sanctions on if they are not reaching the traditional SLA targets, we are forcing them to sub-optimize their own work. And that's the kind of the scary part there. That is the measurement that is pushing organization apart, and you're not then focusing on the delivery to the end users. And that's, for me, is causing this huge difference, because if it's internal service desk, it's more natural to focus on, it doesn't really matter who is spending the time on that problem. You are optimizing it together, and it's much more natural to work together on the problem. But now with outsourced service provider, they are measured by how many tickets they resolve per hour. So they will resolve tickets and close tickets as soon as they can, without really being able to focus on how it felt for you as a consumer or customer of that service.
So this is one of those examples where what you measure really drives behavior and ultimately performance.
True, and it's like when we in IT and when in service management, especially, we are really good in delivering what we are measured on. And for me, I have very, very many times said that I really hate the SLAs, and that is just because I've seen what that causes for the real end user experience. We didn't make them up in a bad kind of thinking. We were aiming for better service, but if we are really too much optimizing those, it ends up in a kind of an opposite thing. And I think we are quite often using this metaphor of watermelon.
Yes.
And that is coming from the things that when we meet new customers or meet CIOs or people who are running service desk, they are quite often in a situation that when they meet the service desk team from the provider and they look at the SLAs, a list of green lights, everything should be okay. We are answering phone in 30 seconds. We are answering the email in 2 hours. Everything is okay. And then the same guy, the CIO, goes to meet business. And business is complaining that your service is bad. And then they are like, what is going on? Everything should be okay, but still it is. And they are on daily basis, weekly basis in that situation that they don't understand what is going on. They are responsible of something. They are reporting that, yes, we are still resolving 1,000 tickets per day. So you must be happy as a customer. And then the customer is, no, we are not. And then you're like, what I can do? So that's the kind of why I hate the SLAs, because it's like so confusing and we are trusting wrong things there.
And so that's why this trend of experience level agreements, or XLAs, is really taking off. And it's one of the things that your company works on, right?
Yeah, we are trying to kind of help our customers to really move from the traditional SLAs to the XLAs, but it's a quite long journey. You cannot jump from SLAs to XLAs in one night because it's so big change.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit first from your experience and your perspective. What's the difference between SLA and XLA?
For me, the hard part there is that SLAs are facts. You can see from the ITSM tool how many minutes did it take to give the first response. XLAs are feelings. And that change in itself is a huge one. But if you now think about back to the watermelon, XLAs, the really positive thing is that what matters to the business? Nothing in the traditional XLAs. But all what they are interested in is that how happy my employees are in the business and how efficient they are. So being able to measure only those two things, first we're forgetting everything what is happening in service desk, kind of forgetting. Of course, then when you find that in these areas, these services, these channels, the end users are not happy, then in many cases, those traditional XLAs are helping to find the reasons behind it. But it's not the opposite way. So if you have any SLAs green, it doesn't mean your end user would be happy. But it might be that when you find that, okay, these are our problem areas, those traditional SLAs will help you to recognize, okay, the reassignment count is a problem, or something else like you don't have enough people on answering the phone, for example.
So can you share how do you measure the sentiment or the feeling? Is it just by surveys, or are there other ways? How do you actually do that?
In our case, it is just surveys, but very optimized surveys. And the key point in doing those is that you had to get enough response rate, meaning that people can trust that data. Because if you have 2%, 5% data from all your tickets, there will be people always saying it's only the positive ones or it's only the negative ones.
Yes.
And you cannot get the kind of common opinion to trust that data. But I think the kind of the big power in XLAs, in fact, is that it is a cooperation tool. What I mean by that is that you have those employees, they have no reason to lie. They just tell what they think. And when you have enough of that feedback, there is no CIO, no partner, no provider, no team lead, no agent that can deny that to be true. Then you have a common shared challenge that you should be thinking about what we can do for this. Is it training agents? Is it changing the channel behavior? What is kind of causing that? But it's not anymore that somebody is just shouting so much that we will fix that one because he is a high level director.
Yes.
And that's a real kind of power of XLAs, that it's helping us to kind of to cooperate together in the area of service management. And that's what we have seen in the best cases, to have a huge influence on cooperate, focus, results. And that's kind of I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I want to go back to something you said, that you can't make a change to go from an SLA driven organization to XLA. You can't do it overnight. Do you help companies with that process as well, or do you only focus on the excuse me, the data gathering and the surveying and all that?
We help them. The easy part in all this is always to start to measure and to get enough data. That's the easy part. Then it's about driving the change and making it possible. And for us, where we help enterprises, then when they have the data, our customer success team will help them to really first understand what is there, compare that to the benchmark, and understand, okay, what is normal, what is not, what could be maybe the first changes that they should be doing with the partners. From outsider, it's much easier to come on that table and only talk what the data tells us. So it is kind of easier for us to start that process. We are not doing designs of any portals or any process change designing, no. We are pointing out those areas what should be done differently, and maybe link customers to other customers who have done something in that area. So let's say there is a customer who had a problem with portal and they renew it and they have hugely better results. We might link them to talk together, not that we would do the portal design as such. Okay. Kind of helping them to take those small steps towards the kind of a XLAs. But it's XLA is a thing that it's you have to trust first, then you can just, that's why I say that it takes time, and you can take that time and have to understand as a leader that don't even try to jump. It's your organization is so used to doing things in a way that we have done for 20 years.
Yep.
And it's not wise even try to take that in that one. But I'm so happy about people so much talking about XLAs now, and not only our company, but really a lot of people.
Yeah, I've been as I do these interviews, I'm with you. I think I've done 2 or 3 others that were very much about the whole experience and using XLAs. Now, you found a relationship, or when I was looking at your benchmark report, I seem to see that there's a relationship between the number of times a ticket is reassigned and the happiness score.
Yeah. That is my favorite that's my favorite of the whole report that we released, because that we have in the report is having all the data from different enterprise service management categories. So not only IT, but there is finance and HR and all.
Okay.
Among all these services, if the ticket is resolved in the first level, first contact, of course, people are quite happy, and they are estimating they are losing 43 minutes per ticket, which is 2.5 hours less than the benchmark is on average. But every time ticket is reassigned, on average, according to that 1.5 million feedbacks, the happiness goes down by 10 points.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and you will add 40 minutes to the lost productivity. And now when I'm talking about the lost productivity here, it is the perception of the lost work time estimated by the end customers. But now if you think about the whole thing, you will also lose time in IT in handling that ticket and when it's going to team. First step was -10 plus 40 minutes. Another step, again, -10 points, 40 minutes. And about the same continues with all steps. So if you are able to, so if you would only measure one thing, not even asking anything from end users, I can guarantee that if you are able to reduce reassignment counts by doing changes to your service portal or assign tickets direct to expert, you will not only save time in IT, you will make your end users much, much happier, and you will save their time as well. So this is one of the things where we are really helping customers to identify those services where they would have the biggest benefit to reduce that one.
Yeah, that's a fascinating statistic. And you found it over 1.5 million responses. I mean,
even though it is their perception, only estimate, but if so many people have given that estimate, it doesn't matter if there is 10,000 who are overestimating or something. Because that sometimes happens when they are angry, they will give some overall.
Wow. So that was a really interesting finding. What are some other things that you were surprised to discover as you embarked on creating the happiness score? What are some things that were really, wow, this is interesting?
I think I would maybe mention two. The first one being that the reputational IT support is really bad. But we are using the same mathematics that the most used consumer metrics, the Net Promoter Score, is using, and that is the what you recommend question. In those scores, the average what we have now measured globally is 67 for IT incidents, and that compared to any consumer business would be a really, really high number. So let's say Apple has been really famous of their customer satisfaction in NPS being like 80 plus. Telecom nobody is over 20, and now the whole IT support is 67. So the results are much. It is really high. So the reputation of IT is not right. We should be having much better reputation because we are so process oriented. Yes, we have done very, very good job there to optimize that. So we are really good what we do, but we are not good in communicating the value to the business. And that's for me why we should be moving to XLS, because that is for business more understandable metrics than the ones that we are using internally. The other surprise is that if I start to talk about end user experience with most of people in service management, they might start to think about portals quite easily and the experience of portals. But according to our benchmark, portal is having the worst experience of all channels on average. So even email is having better experience for end users.
Than a portal.
Than a portal. The best one, of course, walking, then followed by phone, then chat, then email, then portal. And that has been a bit surprise. But on the other hand, if you think about, we are asking this from normal people. Their experience in internet services are coming mainly from their consumer life, where the portals have been very optimized, talking exactly their own language. Now in IT, major of the portal are still using IT language and making things too hard for normal people to categorize, for example. And that is not making them happy yet. Much, much more happier if it's requests, but in incidents, much, much tougher.
And that's fascinating because in the IT service management world, there's a huge emphasis on shifting left, right? Which really is to drive people to a portal and ideally to self-serve and take care of as many things as they can. What your research is showing through a very reliable number of responses is that actually accounts for the worst experience of all the channels.
Yeah, but on average, if you do it right, it can be the best channel. Yeah. Then you have to really do some service design. So it's like the portals coming out of the IT tools are not bad anymore, but the terminology is bad. So you have to really think about the terms. It's not about what it looks like. It's about how you categorize things. The other thing is that not many portals are really taking the advance of that reassignment count thing. Because now, me as a user, it is so easy to go to email and just write something and get it out. Easiest interface ever, because I'm using that 400 emails per day. Now, when I go to portal, it is asking me things. If those questions that it's asking are not helping to get that ticket resolved faster and get the right expert, then it's just, I'm just losing my time, and it's annoying for me. Yeah. But if the portal is designed right, you get the right information, not too much, but just enough, and you get the resolution for that faster. Then you can have the portal as the best channel. But if just you kind of if you implement the email to portal and think about that the people would be more happier, of course they are not, because they now just had to go somewhere else, and you are asking a title and you're asking an email field, the text field. It doesn't make the service faster, and then it's nonsense for me as an end user. Right. Those are quite simple things if you think about them through, but sometimes it's just that you think that having a portal is enough. No, it's not. You have to plan it to have it on a good level.
I wonder if in the benchmark report that you put out, you've gotten any information about chatbots yet, or it's not?
Not yet separately. So we are still having chats and chatbots in the same. But what I have been noticing that chat was having better scores before chatbot came in. So they are not yet.
Okay, so the chat channel had better scores when it was actually, when everything was done by a person, than now when chatbots are coming in.
Yeah, but I think that will change in the next year. So even though I'm saying that chat and portal are not getting a very high scores now, I'm still believing that that is the way we should be going, but not the kind of just thinking that having them is enough. Think about what are the services you try to use in chat and chatbots. What are the services that you really want to push people to in the service portals, and then you get good results, but not just that you have multiple channels for all services. It doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. Some channels are definitely better than others for particular things, and that's the challenge in getting that mix right.
True.
Yeah. So, Sami, what advice would you offer to business leaders, right, who are responsible for the customer experience, be that for employees or even end customers?
First of all, I kind of because I meet very often kind of the very, very thought leader kind of people who are really pushing things. But if you are in a normal organization trying to do this change, remember that it is a journey and it will take time. And just start from the kind of you have to think about this will be 2 years time. That is the most typical whenever a customer have changed and started to measure, when they are in a level that is really kind of, they can say that, okay, this is now our culture, that we are focused on doing decisions based on the end user feedback. Record maybe been 1 year, but it really takes time. So you first have to start to measure. Then I would really recommend that you really focus on how you share that data. So it is not owned by anybody. There cannot be one person, kind of if you are a customer experience, the one who is responsible with it. First of all, try to think about make yourself unneeded. Don't think about that this is your expertise and your only thing, that you will own that data. You will not be able to drive the change, but if you are trying to be the one that always is responsible for finding the things and saying what we could do next, share it. Share it with the agents who are serving the end users, which has a huge value, because when they start to understand, they are measured how they helped the customer compared to how many tickets I close per day, their mindset changes, and it changes very much to positive and more motivating. I would hate if I would be going work every day and my target is closed 100 tickets, compared to thinking I'm going to work where I'm helping people and getting feedback on daily basis on how happy they were when I helped them. A total different mindset, and that's really making things going. So sharing, and not only sharing it with the agents, sharing with the directors, sharing the result with the business, because that's what they are interested about. Sharing with your partners who could help you to get better. And that step is maybe sometimes quite a huge one if you compare typical way of working nowadays, when this kind of CSAT information is maybe checked once in a month in a report or meeting, but it has to be continuously available for people who are a part of that delivery. And so those steps are the kind of first ones that you have to be taking. Then I think it's time to do decisions based off that data, meaning that you select, like, let's say you will see that your portal is not having good feedback. Make a decision that, okay, well, let's make a 2 months project. We do these and these changes, and let's see what happens for end user experience. And when you start to do that, and you start to see that, okay, really, we were able to get the end user happier, then you start to kind of have that way of working in the culture. So it is, yeah, measure, share, do decisions, and then you can start to be in a level of cultural change.
And know that it's going to take time.
Yeah.
2 years around to turn around the culture and to really incorporate what the data is telling you.
Exactly, and I've been so many times in those situations when you first time show the data to some of your customers, or they are showing it to partner, and the partner is looking at so this is really coming from the end users, and there is now 5,000 feedbacks, and that is our problem. And you kind of see that then they start, hey, but we could do maybe this and this, and that is the sharing of the data. There is no one person that can resolve things, and there is no silver bullet in developing end user experience. It's so different between different organizations where the problems are. Might be talents or skills of agents, or it might be that the portal is crappy, or it might be that your partner is measured wrong way. But it's like, yeah, you need to have the data.
Yeah.
Sometimes, in fact, I have to tell one story still. We quite often hear that the people are thinking that we have to do this and this change before we want to measure, because we already know that it will be bad.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a really, really bad excuse not to do it. Because if you think about it, those end users and the business are already having that bad experience. So you are the only one that is not knowing what their experience really is. So avoiding, and you want to do this and these changes before seeing where you are, it's for me like, so you are trying to run the business without understanding where you are going and where you are now. And that's scary.
Agreed. Excellent. Sami, really appreciate, there's some great insights here and some very specific advice here at the end of how business leaders should think about this. Now, I know that you make the happiness report available for free, right? To anybody who wants to download it from your website. Tell our viewers before we sign off how they can do that and how they can reach out to you, and if they want to learn more about you and HappySignals.
All right, so if you go to happysignals.com, you can go and find the benchmark report, and that will be, and you can kind of link to our list. So when we are publishing the next version, there will be a PDF about it, and a webinar about it. So every time you will be invited to both. You will get that document, and you will be invited to about 45 minutes webinar where I will be going through the new results. So what has changed and what new we have added and so on. So that is the easiest way. Also, you can find my contact information from our website. So if you want to have a discussion about XLAs and so, or challenge me about them, I'm more than happy to be challenged by this, because that's the only way how to learn.
All right, guys, don't miss out on it. The report is fantastic. I went through it, learned some really interesting things. And when you look at the base of responses, that's data you can count on. 1.5 million and soon to be 3 million, you said, Sami?
2 million. 2 million.
2 million. 2 million. I mean, can't deny, you can't fight with that. And it's very, very insightful. Sami, thank you so much again for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you again later in the future.
All right, thank you very much, Pedro. Happy to be here.
Thanks.